Well, it's about 6 o'clock, and I decided to come into the forest in the evening just to see how things were. At this time of day, it gets pretty dark down where I'm going to be going. I mean, it's not dark, but the forest is darker, which is kind of cool. So I only saw one really sketchy looking person walking out of here as I was coming in. So is your thing messed up, Odin? There. No, I guess not. I thought his harness was messed up. So, but it's like 66 degrees. It's really, really nice. And then the reason I'm so late at coming here is I was going on the internet looking at some channels that I like to watch. And then I was looking at native Pacific Northwest year-long plants that I can put in containers on my balcony, which will, be there year-long. So I found, and I probably can't remember them, but I found snowberry, huckleberry, it's called a foam plant, and a maidenhair fern. I couldn't find a deer fern, but I looked up all these plants that will grow just fine here. So that's what I found, and so I ordered those. And I had a fern in the house, the one that I actually got from here. I think that's probably a deer fern. And it's growing so good. I planted it in a large pot. I got a mojito bulb from Holland Bulbs, and it never did anything. It was just dead. So that's the second bulb I've gotten from there that was not good. So to be honest, I won't be ordering from them again. And then for my 2009 remake Jason Voorhees mask that I got, I have a laminated poster of that mask coming. And it'll go great on the wall, and I'll hang up my mask when I get the poster. That is my favorite. One of my favorite Friday the 13th is the 2009 remake, or it's called Reboot. That poster, looking at the poster and looking at the mask that Maniac Mask makes is just amazing. I mean, the poster mask is the actual mask that was worn in the movie, and the mask that I got made for me is perfect. The guy does a stellar job, and I'm really impressed. So yeah, it's pretty darn dark down here, even though I don't know why the phone doesn't show how dark things really are. It brightens everything up, and I don't quite get that. So, but we're just going down here for a minute, and then we're gonna go back up, and we're gonna walk around up top, and over by where I always see the deer. And Freya's ticked off because she has to wear her little mouth cover. But she won't stop eating junk, and I have to protect her from eating bad things. And there's a lot of poisonous mushrooms in here. What did you guys do? Oh, did that log move? So, well, at least I got you to move in front of me instead of behind me. But there's a lot of mosquitoes. I guess they like the oh yeah, I'm stupid. I forgot. They like it in the evening, in the dark. And we're climbing up now, so I'm a little out of breath. I totally forgot to use my inhaler for the last week. I just keep forgetting, so I put it right next to my computer so I won't forget, because if I don't use it, I start getting out of breath and stuff. But yeah, I just totally forgot. And my knee kind of hurts a little bit today from the dive I took yesterday. So I landed and scunned up my knee and I tripped over a branch. Like I was talking about the other day, my foot got caught in another one of these branches. Like, here's these branches that are just laying, they're all over the place. And I get my foot caught in one, then I go down. Because sometimes they're roots and they don't move. Like, you know, one of these branches, usually I can kick it up. But if it's a root, nope, I'm going to be falling flat on my face. I don't know if that's a deer over there or not. A bunch of those big birds that were flying around the other day, the bigger ones, there's a lot of vultures around here. So they aren't like circling things. They obviously they're flying around looking for dead stuff. But they're big and they're ugly. They just have ugly faces. So guess they call them a butterface. And I think those really big birds that are all brown, that are flying around in the wind, or gliding, I should say, I think those are eagles that aren't 5 years old yet. And if the eagles get their white heads and their white tails when they're 5 or 6. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of traffic and pretty loud, probably. Somebody's building themselves a, where is it? Maybe it's a fort. Around here, I doubt it. When I was a little kid, my friends and I used to go into this great big brickyard place. Or no, I was a young teenager. Well, no, I had to have been 11 or 12. And we built ourselves a fort in the bricks. And it was elaborate. And thinking now, if some of those, if that brick stuff would have come down, we would have been killed. Because our forts had several stories. And these are these big bricks they use for basements and stuff. But we made little chimneys and we'd light fires in there and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose we tried cigarettes, maybe. Smoking some cigarettes back then. But it's unbelievable that just happened to get caught. But yeah, I used to love building forts. We built. It's really weird. I didn't know until I was 18 that I had an identical twin sister. I didn't like my mom. I don't like my mom. And it doesn't bother me that she's gone at all. She was just I think she was a bad person. But she didn't tell me that the psychopath that we were living with, he was a psychopath. He was diagnosed, my stepdad. I wasn't told that he wasn't my real father. So what I did was, I was really stupid. I was just stupid and young. I mean, my mom didn't teach me anything except really bad things, like things that are normal, that normal people would do or behave like. Those were bad to her. And she was an extremist. A Christian extremist is what she was. Now and then later on she was a Catholic, but so I didn't know that the crazy man who was abusing her and me, like beating up wise, I didn't know he was not my dad. So at about, I think I was 16 or 15, if you get triggered by talk of suicide and stuff, then you want to get off this right now, not listen. But anyway, when I was 15 or 16, I thought, I'm going to end up being crazy like him. This is what young people have in their heads, and that's why their parents should be truthful to them. So thinking that I was going to make babies that were insane, like the stepdad, and thinking that I was going to end up being insane because I thought I was his evil spawn. Come on. I learned how to make a noose. So what I did was I went into the basement. My grandma was ironing, actually. And I went into the basement, and there was some real nice beams down there, and I tried to off myself. So what happened was the beam broke, and I landed on my ass, basically, and made a big commotion, and my grandma come flying down. My grandma was a good lady. She was a good person. She didn't know any of the stuff that my mom was doing to me. But she come flying down and saying, what in the hell did you do? And I said, I don't want to live because I'm going to be insane like my dad, is what I said. And she started bawling, and she got really pissed. And she said, just a minute. And she went and got my mom. And she sat my mom down and said, I want to tell you what your daughter just did, because she thought that the psychopath was her real dad. And my grandma tore my mom a new butt, basically, and said, and then my grandma told me that man is no relation to me whatsoever. So my mom had to spill finally. And my grandma sat her down and said, "You're not leaving until you tell her exactly who her dad is." And I bet you haven't even told her that she had an identical twin sister. And my mom said, "No, I never told her any of it." So they sat down and told me that my dad, who I had never met, was in another state entirely. And he was actually a nice guy. And that when my mom met him when she was young. He was young. He was 18, she was 20. But she met him, and, they did the do, and she got pregnant, and he wanted to marry her. And his parents, back then where he lived, his parents had to consent or sign or whatever for them to get married, and his parents said, "No, she's, we don't want her as part of our family." His parents were jerks. So basically my mom and grandma took off out of Oklahoma. And then she was pregnant with me and my sister, my twin. And they, went to where my home state was. So I had no idea that I had a twin sister. But she said what happened is my twin sister was born with a congenital heart defect. And we were preemies, premature. And my sister back then, no, they took x-rays is what they did when my mom was 8 or 7 months pregnant, because of the, they wanted to make sure she had twins in there. So they did the x-rays, and I guess the x-rays caused her to get that hole in her heart. So my twin sister and I were born, and she was supposed to get an operation when she turned a year old, because they couldn't do the operation back then when she was young. So around 5 or 6 months, she had started crying, and something happened, and it caused her to die. It caused something to break because of the hole in her heart thing. So that's what my mom told me. Oh, there's some deer right there. So that's what my mom said. Don't you get excited, Freya. And so then I, found out I had a twin sister. And but she passed away. So when my friends and me, we lived in this one city, and we moved around all the time because my stepdad, I don't know, I think it's because he beat the hell out of my mom so much that, the neighbors complained and they had to keep moving. So in this place that we were living, I was playing in the graveyard all the time. I went there by myself, actually, and I felt very at peace in the graveyard. I had a blast. I'd go there late at night. I'd sneak out of my house and go there in the middle of the night, and I would just sit there and look at the stones and stuff and play. I love graveyards. I still do. So I kept playing in there, and I kept playing in there, and my mom finally got mad and said, "Where do you go at night?" And I said, "I go to this cemetery," and I told her what the name was. And she goes, "You're kidding me." She just turned white, like she saw a ghost. There's the deer down there. See? They're eating. And so then my mom said, "Well, your sister who passed away is in that cemetery," because she never told me where she was. And she said we could never afford to get her a gravestone, so she's just got a slab. And she said, I'm not, she goes, "I'm shocked that you find such comfort in that graveyard." And she goes, "I know why now." And so I'm like, oh, and that just totally floored me. Because I believe in spirits. I do. I believe in spirits. I believe in the afterlife. I don't believe that bodies just turn to dust. And, worm meat when we die. I don't believe it at all. So I believe in we have an essence and an energy in us that is just not going to be wasted. You know, it's just not, and that's my opinion. And so, but she finally got a headstone for my sister, and she brought me to it. I didn't even know where the grave was. I still didn't. And so, the day that she got they put the headstone on, this was like, 60 years later. So we went there, and she told me to meet her there. And then, I saw the headstone, and it was a real nice one. What are you looking at back there? Hang on just a second. And I walked over the grave of my identical twin sister, and I'm telling you, an energy shot out of there and into me like nobody's business. It was the most amazing thing that I had ever felt. My sister and me had connected again. So after 60 years. So that was like one of the greatest things that ever happened. And I knew then, I mean, I knew long before then that things existed, beyond our capabilities to even understand. But I knew, I mean, I've seen things and had things happen. But that's why that's my story about making forts in the brickyards and then playing in the graveyards. There's a graveyard here in this city that supposedly is haunted, and I want to go there, and I want to do my own little investigation, and see if I can see anything or anything happens. So when I do that, I'll film it and stuff. And I don't really care what anybody thinks about me, but I've seen things that would scare the crap out of a lot of people. And I never asked to see this stuff. I always felt it was a curse. But my grandma had the same kind of things happen. So I don't know what they called people like her, if she's a clairvoyant or what, but she had things happen, and she told me at a very young age some of the things that happened, and every one of her dreams came true. Like if somebody died in her dream, they actually died. So that was her curse. And when I told her the stuff I saw, she was really sad and said, I wished you hadn't she thinks I inherited it from her. But she said, I'm sad that you have. And I said, you know what? It is what it is. So, but that's why I'm not afraid of the night. I'm not afraid of the dark. I watch tons and tons of horror movies. I don't dream about them. Never. I dream about real life things that are scary. But there's that deer right there. And he or she's just grazing all nice. And having some grasp, I guess, before they go to bed. One of the guys here told me that the deer are so infested with deer ticks in their ears that when the hunters get deer, they have to cut the ears off immediately, because it's so bad. So the deer ticks here, which is too bad. So, but she's moving in behind something, and so I'll just bring that back. But this is really nice here. It's nice and cool. Just love it. What are you guys doing? You want to, no, we're not going down to the deer. Come back up. Come on, Odin. This is one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. I was going to go to the ocean tonight, but I'm not because there's no clouds. And I want to get a sunset that has clouds because those are the most beautiful sunsets. And I really don't feel like getting a face burn again. I ordered some sunscreen, but it's not going to be here until next week. So I burnt my face last time I went to the ocean, and it didn't feel good, and it's bad to burn your skin anyway. So, but I hope you are having a good evening. I'm disappointed with the new patch in Wild Dragonflight because I don't see anything to do. It said we were supposed to do all this stuff, but apparently that's just for the Mythic Plus people and the raiding people, and they have this big new dungeon, and who wants to go in there and sit and listen to all the toxic idiots? And they're all toxic. The people that raid in there and the people that do dungeons and stuff are the most, this expansion, they're the most toxic people I've ever seen. They treat tanks like garbage. What it is a whole bunch of people came over from Final Fantasy 14, and those are the worst of the worst in dungeons. The healers, if you try to be a tank, learn to be a tank in Final Fantasy 14, it's impossible. I mean, I've seen so many tanks rage quit because summoners and the mages and stuff and the conjurers, they pull the bosses, they pull all the mobs because they're in such a big hurry. They don't let the tanks, they don't help the tanks, they don't let the tanks do their job or learn. And they're coming over to World of Warcraft and they're just messing it up just as bad. So that's how they're treating tanks in World of Warcraft too, like crap. So I know it's Final Fantasy people, and they're some of the most bizarre people I've ever met. Oh, poopy time, huh? Well, it's my cue to go. So I love how dark it is in here. It's too bad it doesn't show up on the phone. I don't know how to fix any of the video settings on the phone yet, so. But I hope you have a real nice evening, and I will talk to you later. See ya.